turn 12, turn 14, turn 17, all important. Actually, all 17 corners are important. But turn 1, maybe turn 4, and turn 13, 14 area where you're going to see the best passing opportunities. Everywhere else, opportunities for mayhem. If you get off this racing surface, Jeremy, it seems like everything is downhill towards a tire barrier or a guardrail.
Oh, good morning, Brian. You're absolutely right. This is a really challenging racetrack for everybody, but absolutely perfect conditions this morning. We've got a huge field, and this should be a really interesting race.
Absolutely, and in typical Lamborghini Super Trofeo fashion, 4 different championships going on within this field, 4 different classes. But Jeremy, that's the thing that I think is so cool about this series. Every one of these cars is the same. So even if you're in LB Cup, which is for the newer drivers, you're driving the exact same car, the same horsepower, the same platform that the pro drivers are using up at the front of the field.
That's exactly right. Everybody using the same 620 horsepower Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo, but 4 different classes of driver rather than car. There's the pro drivers, the pro-ams, the AMs, and as you were mentioning there, the LB Cup contenders that have relatively little experience. We're going to have 28 cars in a race, and we've got 8 pros, 5 pro-ams, 8 AMs, and 7 LB Cups. Let's have a quick look down the starting order. Starting at the back of the field, the car number 7 is Sandro Espinosa. Alongside him on the 14th row of the grid, from South Africa originally, but now living in Florida, 17 years of age, is number 88, Gianno Torino. Row 13, a former Formula One driver, Nelson Piquet Jr. in car number 13. He had some brake problems yesterday, had a crash in qualifying. Alongside him on the grid is Bill Pelichowski in car number 62. Row 12 is Tom Kerr in number 74 and Scott Wellham in number 82. Row 11 is Mark Kawami in car number 47, alongside Randy Saleri, last year's LB Cup champion, now moving up to the AM category this year. Row 10 of the grid is Brandon Godovic in car number 46, alongside Justin Price in car number 21. Row 9, Matt Dickin in the car number 36, alongside Martin Fuentes from Mexico, making his return to the series this weekend in car number 11. Row 8 is Mike Manella, the fastest of the LB Cup contenders, in car number 4 for MCR Racing, alongside last year's AM champion. Moving up to Pro-Am in car number 29 is Victor Gomez. Row 7, Ashton Harrison in car number 25, alongside Stephen McAleer in car number 16. Jordan Missing will start in the 12th position in car number 53, alongside Alan Metney in car number 99. Row 5, Max Wearing in car number 61, alongside Luke Berkeley in car number 23. Row 4, the best of the AM contenders in qualifying is Trevor Andrusco in car number 38 for TPC Racing, alongside Stephen Agacani in car number 6. Row 3, Dario Capitanio making his debut in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America in car number 22, alongside Alec Udell in car number 48. Sergio Jimenez in car number 44 will start in the 4th position, alongside the Canadian Kyle Marcelli in car number 1. Onto the front row of the grid, the fastest of the pro qualifying cars is Richard Antonucci in car number 27 for Dream Racing Motorsport, but a pole sitter in the Pro-Am category, his 5th overall pole position for Torino Racing, car number 51, is Loris Spinelli.
Well, and interesting, speaking with Andrea Torino yesterday from that team, the team owner for Loris Spinelli, he said, you know, these guys are good. I hand-picked them, and you can see quality in that number 51, the Pro-Am combination on the pole, the red, white, and green 51 alongside the 27, that purple pro entry of Richard Antonucci, former series champion, but lined up and ready to go. 20 Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evos waiting, 620 horsepower times 28, about to take the green flag. Very slow indeed. Spinelli brings them down, looking for the green. They're in the start zone, and Antonucci gets a bit of a jump from the outside as they head to turn 1.
28 cars in this tight right-handed funnel at turn 1, and good defensive line there from the pole sitter Loris Spinelli, able to maintain an advantage, but only just over Richard Antonucci, who has a huge amount of experience in these cars. By far the most experienced driver in the field is Richard Antonucci in that Dream Racing car number 27. He's got 15 previous wins in his 53 previous starts.
Yeah, a lot of talent right there. He's taken the point. Spinelli now has fallen back to 3rd. And that big jump by Antonucci has brought other cars with them. And so right now, Spinelli just has to remain calm, understand that he's got this. He's got plenty of time to go, 50 minutes, and he'll hand over to a very talented co-driver. So this is that point in the race where you can't let emotion take over, Jeremy. We've just started it. It was Sergio Jimenez who jumped up to second in that blue and white 44, and now Spinelli having a look inside there at Oak Tree.
Yeah, that was a good try there by Spinelli, but he wasn't quite able to get it done. And Richard Antonucci, he's going to be a difficult man for Spinelli to get past. Spinelli is making his return to the series. He ran in a Pro-Am category 3 or 4 years ago. Has been racing in Europe since then. But this brand new team for this season, Torino Racing, in those very distinctive red, white, and green colours of the Italian flag. Andrea Torino is the team principal. He's originally from Italy, but he lived much of his life in South Africa and now makes his home in South Florida.
Kyle Marcelli in the number 1, the Prestige Performance Wayne Taylor Racing entry from Lamborghini Paramus. Saw him there, and just behind him, Alec Udell, a newcomer to the series, but a very talented driver. We're going to see competition throughout the classes, throughout the field today. And up front, we're seeing it right now, Jeremy, and that is Pro and Pro-Am combinations fighting with each other. And that's the thing that I would think would be difficult, is it not, to understand which class you're in, which championship you're after, and not get tangled up with another car that's in a different championship.
Well, that's exactly right. You pick your battles out there, because it's all very well going for an overall place, and these are all racing drivers have egos, don't they? So they want to be up front. But looking at the bigger picture, we've got to 12 races in this championship, and you score points not in the overall category, but just in your respective classes.
Marcelli trying to work on the back of the purple number 22 from Dream Racing. A sister car to Antonucci out in front in the 27, and good battle side by side through Oak Tree just in front, and there may have been contact there as Jimenez goes around in the 44. That looks like a cut down right rear, Jeremy.
It does, and he's got to limp that car all the way back to the pit lane. It's already come apart, that tire, so this is going to be an early end to the race for that driver.
Wonder if it's cut down or the suspension, I think, is actually broken down, and taking a look at it. Yeah, Spinelli to the inside. That's a really low percentage move there in Oak Tree. You've got to get it done, and there just wasn't enough room. It looked like he gets up on the curb. The car leaps into the air. These cars very stiffly sprung, a very stiff platform, and the car bounced off the curb, and the contact was made. And for the 44, he takes the brunt of the impact.
Yeah, that was most unfortunate there, because he was looking good for a strong result here, and that contact between the pair of them, nothing he could have done about that. It was a contact to the right rear corner of that car. It just cut a tire down, and that's the end of the race for him.
Well, and that's what we were talking about. You've got to understand where you are, what class you're in. The 44, a pro class car. The 51, a Pro-Am entry. And I know when you're out there running side by side, I'm sure these drivers, all they know is that it's another car beside them, and they don't want to let that car by. But that's a shame. It'll be interesting to see what the officials have to say about incident responsibility and whether that lies with Spinelli or if it was just a racing incident. 2 drivers running really hard, aggressively, trying to get the same piece of real estate.
Yeah, they were. I mean, it was, but as you said, that's a low percentage pass there at the Oak Tree turn. It's fine to overtake somebody there who's significantly slower, but you enter that right-hand corner. It's effectively a double apex right-hander there at turn 7 and 8 at the top of the hill, where the old Oak Tree used to be and stood here for, centuries before it was felled in a lightning storm a few years ago. You kind of take it one big sweep around there to make a move on a driver who's equally matched into that corner is really, really difficult, and it's taking a big risk, and he took that risk, and unfortunately it was the innocent party really that came off by far the worst.
The great thing about the 2021 season is the influx of new teams. Torino Racing is one of them. So is MCR Racing, the number 4 right now in the hands of Michael Manella, out in front leading in LB Cup. That beautiful red number 4 from Lamborghini Miami. and a good run for not only that new team, but for Manella as well. And now Spinelli taking the fight to Antonucci. That's a Pro-Am car, the red, white, and green 51, battling with a Pro Class car, the single driver entry of Richard Antonucci from Dream Racing just in front in the 27.
Yeah, and that was a great lap. The yellow flags are out because of that car stalled at the other pit lane. Which there's two different. You can run as many as 3 different racetracks here at VIR, but the support race pits, or sometimes used for support races, otherwise on the northern end of the racetrack here, that car's come to a halt, and we're going to have a full course caution. But Richard Antonucci set a new fastest lap of the race last time around at 147.441, but Loris Spinelli went significantly quicker, 145.270 last time around for Loris Spinelli in column 51 to close right up onto the tail of Antonucci to make it a battle for the lead. And that is a tremendously quick lap from Loris Spinelli. It's quicker even than he managed yesterday in qualifying. Of course, perfect conditions this morning, but still, that was a great lap. And Richard Antonucci, he's going to have a fight on his hands once we get back to green flag racing.
Well, we have not heard anything from race control. Typically, when there's any incident involving contact between two cars, they'll investigate it and determine whether it's a racing incident or a driver has responsibility and therefore would be penalized. So at least for right now, I'm sure it's under review, but we don't have any kind of a call on that. But this yellow is going to bring this field back together. There is a mandatory pit stop in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. It happens anywhere from the 20-minute mark into the race to the 30-minute mark in the race. It has to happen in that 10-minute window, and there is a minimum time spent on pit lane, 91 seconds for combinations of 2 drivers. And if you're a single driver entry, it's 94 seconds. And I think a lot of people look at that disparity, Jeremy, and they go, why does the one driver entry have a penalty of those 3 seconds? But I think it's pretty easily explained.
Yeah, it is. That being a single driver car, when they come into the pits, they still have to be stationary for that mandated amount of time. But because they already know the track conditions, they know how the car is handling, when they go out onto the racetrack, they have a big advantage over a driver who's just getting in after his co-driver has done the first part of the race. So the driver who's driving the race solo, he has to sit for an extra 3 seconds. That's kind of equated as what the second driver will lose by just getting himself up to speed on the racetrack, literally, and coming to terms with how the car is handling it. Could it be different conditions to qualifying or practice or the last time he drove the car? So that kind of gives a little bit of an equality to the drivers who are just driving this race solo and those who are handing over to a co-driver at a half distance.
Well, talking to ANSA Motorsport, they look for race wins. They've got the 13 entry of Nelson Piquet Jr. and the 44 of Sergio Jimenez, who unfortunately we just saw with that contact. But I was talking to the team and I said, why split them? They ran together at COTA. Did you not have other co-drivers that wanted to run with them, or, what's the deal? And he said, we come for race wins. And so right now what we want to see is the one driver format better for us? Is it better for us? And are we more likely to win even with that 3-second additional time that we must spend on pit lane? Will that help us get to victory lane? Because what ANSA Motorsport wants to do is win races. So that's a strategic thing as well. These teams looking at it going, okay, one driver or 2, how do we want to get to victory lane? What's our best opportunity? And that's exactly what ANSA is doing right now. Yeah,
indeed. So, and the other complication for ANSA was that the drivers who shared the number 13 car at the first round, Nico Jumin from France and Scott Andrews from Australia, they're both committed actually this weekend to racing in Europe. So they kind of couldn't be there in any case. But still, when you've got 2 drivers like Sergio Jimenez and Nelson Piquet Jr., they are both very, very capable drivers. Piquet, of course, the son of the former 3-time Formula One world champion Nelson Piquet, the same name, also raced at Indianapolis, did Nelson, not quite so successfully. Unfortunately, had a horrible accident, badly broke his legs there. But Nelson Jr., hugely talented in his own right, and I think loving the opportunity here to race again in North America. He did really only a couple of races here. One of them he did an Indy Lights race a few years ago, a couple of Indy Light races a few years ago, and thoroughly enjoyed his experience, and I think has welcomed this opportunity to come back over here and drive this Lamborghini Super Trofeo for that ANSA Motorsports team, and Alan Nadal and his co-conspirators there at ANSA Motorsports.
Yeah, and you look through the talent in this field, and I think a lot of people in the past looked at the Lamborghini Super Trofeo as, and there's a replay of the start and the great jump that Antonucci gets in the 44 outside. Jimenez comes with him, relegating Spinelli back to third, and obviously he didn't want to sit back there very long because that's where that torrid battle took place between Spinelli and Jimenez, leading to that contact, which is why we are under yellow. And what I was going to say, Jeremy, is you look at the talent through this field, and you talk about the PKs of the world, the Richard Antonucci's, and these other drivers who have both race wins and championships and other series. And I think it's just a hats off to Chris Ward, who is the series manager here in the U.S. He's got a much longer title than that, but I don't have his card in front of me right now. But and what they've done to grow it and what they've done to attract talent. And almost every driver that gets in these cars and steps in them, especially the experienced drivers, I think it's an eye-opening experience. It's 620 horsepower, good downforce, sophisticated traction control, and anti-lock braking systems. And it's a challenge to learn it and get to the pointy end of the stick.
Yeah, it is, and Nelson Piquet Jr., he's certainly the biggest mover in this race so far. He started way at the back in the 26th position in that kind of a 30 because they had a brake problem in qualifying that caused the car to run off the road. Luckily, there wasn't too much damage on that car. He's now up to 15th place, which is, just sort of 2 or 3 laps of racing. That's a good progress from Nelson Piquet Jr. to get himself up towards where he kind of should be in this race. But it is still Richard Antonucci who leads in that the Bitbull car. It's been a really good beginning to this race for that Dream Racing Motorsport team. The pair of Bitbull cars, Antonucci, who won one of the first races a couple of weeks ago at Circuit of the Americas, and then into third place and second in a Pro-Am category is Dario Capitano. He's originally from Rome in Italy, but he's making his debut in the North American Championship this weekend. He's 26 years of age, but he works now at Dream Racing Motorsport in Las Vegas for this team. They have an arrive and drive program there, but he's one of their chief instructors. He did some racing in Europe a few years ago. The last time he competed, I think, was in 2017 when he did some LMP3 races. Before that, he raced in karts. He raced in Formula Renault in Europe, and also in the Renault Sports Series. He won that championship in 2015. Also won a Super Nats race at Las Vegas some years ago as well. So a very talented driver making his return to top line racing this weekend. And Dario Capitano into the third position in caliber 22.
So looking down the order, Richard Antonucci leads the field. He also leads the pro category. Loris Spinelli just behind him on the racetrack leads in Pro-Am. Trevor Andrusko leads in the AM category, and we talked about Michael Manella and MCR Racing just a little bit earlier. They're leading in LB Cup. The 4 class leaders, as we're going to go back to green, the lights have been shut off on the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Huracan safety car, and now the field will come down through the S's, through turn 17, also known as Hog Pen, and they'll get ready to go. And Antonucci playing games, a little accelerate, decelerate, and off of 17 he goes. Spinelli looking to get back to the front after he was moved back to third on that initial start, but Antonucci with a good jump and smoke out of the 23.
Yeah,
that looks like the right side, Jeremy. I don't know if that's tire smoke or something out of the engine compartment.
Yeah, hard to say at this stage. I guess the driver will find out soon enough. That's a shame for Luke Berkeley there at number 20. Could have been some sort of tire rub there. Maybe he made some contact with somebody. He still
it's cut down.
Yeah, there it goes.
Yeah, and that's the problem. You get a little contact, and you can see there's a little bit of mark on the bodywork. That may have been from the tire coming off, but when that tire got cut down, whether it was from debris or contact, problem is as the speed picks up, the cut just gets worse, and then it lets go, and it happened in the exact worst spot that it could. and that was just coming onto the front straightaway. No opportunity to duck the pit lane. At that point in time, he wouldn't have known he had the problem, and now stranded in the grass out there with no right rear.
Yeah, that's most unfortunate for the youngest driver in the field is Luke Berkeley there. He's doing a good job. He's just 17 years of age, born in, we just had his 17th birthday, actually, just a couple of weeks ago, May 19, the youngster from Florida, another driver for this Dream Racing Motorsport team. He's done some testing in Formula 4 cars previously, done quite a bit of karting, but this is Circuit America was his first ever race. A great move though there to take the lead going into Hogpen by Loris Spinelli. But I think the caution flags just waved moments before he lifted off. I thought the pass looked a bit easy, Brian. I think what happened there is Richard Antonucci got the call that the yellow's come out. He lifted off, and Spinelli was already committed. So he goes ahead and makes the pass, and now drops in behind him again.
The speed differential was so great. I thought Spinelli was going like into another county. I thought he was headed into Danville because the speed differential was so great. And I believe you're exactly right. Either the call on the radio or Spinelli missed the flag. You see the smoke off the back of the 23, and right there, the tire goes down. The car sits down on the right rear, and at this point in time, absolutely no control over that car. And as you said, disappointing for Berkeley, for sure. You can see him pound on the steering wheel, and yeah, the pass took my breath away a little bit there, Jeremy. I said, because the speed differential was so great, but Spinelli immediately putting it back, and I think that will allow the officials to go, okay, no harm, no foul. It'd be interesting to see if the flag was out or if it was a call on the radio that Antonucci got.
Yeah, but I was kind of in mid-sentence there, and all of a sudden I saw the pass. Wait a minute, what's happening here? So
I was like, there's no way he was going to stay on the racetrack, right?
No, exactly. I wasn't expecting anybody to make a pass there, particularly not with such a bold-looking pass. But yeah, that explains it quite nicely. He was just he was focused on trying to make the move. I don't think he was planning on making it until he saw Richard Antonucci slowed, and probably at the moment he saw Antonucci slowed is when he got a call on the radio to say that the full course caution was out, and but at that stage he was already committed to making the pass.
The Raging Bulls of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America Series under control right now at Virginia International Raceway, under control of the Lamborghini safety car just in front, second yellow of the day. First one for contact between the number 51 of Loris Spinelli and the number 44 of Sergio Jimenez. That put Jimenez out of the race, restarted, and immediately Luke Berkeley has a cut down tire. The right rear goes on his number 23 Dream Racing entry. That brings full course caution out again. And as we close in on the pit window, that's going to be interesting. I'm going to be interested to see who stays out the longest. And I would think guys like Antonucci are going to want to go as long as they can, build the biggest lead that they can before they come to pit lane.
Yeah, that's right. But you know, the Pro-Am drivers, those are changing drivers. There's 3 that are and 3 that aren't. The Pro will want to stay out longer, so the AM has less time to complete at the end of the race. So our second and third, well, our second place car is Loris Spinelli in car number 51. He is going to hand over that number 51 car to Claude Signoretti, originally from Brazil, but now based in Boca Raton, Florida, for the second part of the race. Dario Capitano, however, in car number 22, running in the third position. He is driving that car solo. He's not going to hand over to anybody. So when he comes out, is really entirely up to him.
It's really interesting, the strategy of 1 or 2, like we've talked about before, and that is you end up with a fresh driver for the second half of the race, and that driver may be able to find more time because he's fresh, but at the same point in time, they've got to build up the speed for these single driver entries. Like you said, it seems like just an eternity sitting there on pit lane, I would imagine, for the 60 seconds that they have to sit there, 94 seconds in total from pit in to pit out. But once they let go of the pit lane speed limiting button, it's on. They know what they've got because they already ran the first half of the race.
Yeah, indeed so. And you might think, well, for those who are familiar with motor racing, why not make the pit stop under caution? It's slightly early. The pit window is actually now open. We've got just under half an hour remaining in this 50-minute race, and you have to make your mandatory pit stop anytime after 20 minutes into the race and before 20 minutes remaining in the race. So there's a 10-minute window there which you have to make your mandatory pit stop. However, you're not allowed by the regulations to make that stop under full course caution, because obviously if you make your pit stop under caution when everybody else on the racetrack is going slowly, that would give you a big advantage to somebody who pitted under green when the cars are at full racing speed. So the drivers are not allowed to make their pit stop until we go back to green. They have to take the green flag, and then they can come in the mandatory pit stop anytime after the next racing lap.
You talk about advantage. Well, I'll talk about a disadvantage a little bit about these low slung supercars. And that is, even with the smallest amount of damage, they're kind of difficult to get on some of these flatbeds anywhere we go. The safety team here at VIR are one of the best in the country, but trying to get one of these low slung Lamborghini Huracan Evo Super Trofeo cars on the flatbed without damaging it. Remember, that car just has a cut down tire, and it is difficult and time consuming, and nobody wants to see that, but they're doing the best they can to get us back to green. Once we do go to green, Jeremy, even though the pit lane window is effectively open right now, pit lane will remain closed until every car goes past and takes the green flag. You have to take the green flag on the racetrack before coming into the pit lane. So you can't come just down through 17 and the green flag's waving, and the advantage would be to the cars at the end of the field. They can't just duck in.
Yeah, that's right. So it's going to be quite a while yet, because with this, it's a long way around this 3.27 mile racetrack. It takes quite a long time under a full course caution. And so it's still going to be quite a while before these cars come in the pits. We saw it qualifying yesterday, just a 20-minute session in a 15-minute session in each of the qualifying periods yesterday. And to tell you what, it was nearly 10 minutes before anybody actually set 10 minutes remaining. So well over 5 minutes had gone past before anybody set a lap time at all. That's because running now behind the safety car, the last lap time was 3 minutes 32. That's what the safety car is running. The fastest lap of the race was a 1:45.2. So nearly 2 minutes slower behind the safety car than running at full race speeds.
Well, and it's interesting as well, and I think hats off to race control Todd Snyder, who is the IMSA steward, or race director, I should say, who oversees this event as well as some of the other series under the IMSA banner. You've got the ability to speed up and slow down the safety car from race control based upon what you're seeing cleanup wise on the racetrack. If it looks like it's taken a little while, you can slow the safety car down a little bit, maybe get that cleanup done so you can go restart the next time by. If you realize that's an impossibility, you run them at the standard pace. And if you need to get them around a little bit quicker, you can do that. So I think they're really paying close attention to the cleanup for the 23 car. May have slowed that last lap down just a little bit to give the crews a little more time to get it off so that we could get back to green flag racing. I think they were just about done with it. I wouldn't be surprised to see the lights go out on the safety car this time and go green next time by. We'll have to wait and see. Over at turn 3, where they're about to arrive, is where that flatbed had the number 23 of Luke Berkeley and Dream Racing up and ready to go. And in fact, they are taking it behind the wall right now. So I would think that we should be ready to go this next time by.
Yeah, let's hope so. Lights are still on the Huracan safety car at the moment, but there's a lot of anxious drivers there wanting to get this race underway. And particularly for someone like Nelson Piquet Jr., these full course cautions are kind of a blessing and a curse, because to one degree it brings the field closer together, but it also takes away the opportunities that he might have made had to make some passes at this stage in the race. So he's just got to be patient there. He's running at the moment in the 14th position. You talked about the class leaders a few moments ago. It's Richard Antonucci who leads overall and in pro. Loris Spinelli, second position overall in column 51, and the pro AM leader. The AM leader remains Trevor Andrusko, who started on the pole in column 38, running in a 9th position for TPC Racing. And the best of the LB Cup contenders again was the pole sitter Mike Manella in column 4 for MCR Racing. And Mike Manella, just an incredible story. If you could believe it, he doesn't have any feet. And the reason he doesn't have any feet is because he had a horrific road accident quite a lot of years ago now, where he lost both of his feet. So at the end of his legs they're kind of like hooves. In fact, he's called Hoofy down in the paddock. Purely a term of endearment there for Mike, and he has no problem with that whatsoever. He's got a great sense of humor as Mike. He's doing a heck of a job to lead the LB Cup category in the 18th position overall for MCR Racing. That's kind of a 4.
Yeah, great stories all throughout, and the lights are off on the Lamborghini safety car, I believe. And you were talking about Nelson Piquet Jr. there in 14th. You just look at the 3 cars in front of him. They're all Pro-Am entries, but 2 of those Pro-Am entries are race winners in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. So Piquet Jr. has his work cut out for him, and it's not going to get any easier as he moves forward. It's great that these full course cautions bring the field back to you, like you said, Jeremy, but now he's at the sharp end of the stick, and the talent that's around him is going to make it that much more difficult to get by. Antonucci, again, playing the accordion game, stacks him up, accelerates away a little bit, stacks him up, accelerates away a little bit.
And that you're not supposed to do. You're supposed to maintain a steady speed here. Richard Antonucci, he's got a huge amount of experience in IMSA, and race control is not going to like the way he's handled this restart.
No, and less of it this time than on the first restart, but still the same game. Really stacked up the field at the apex of Hogpen, turn 17, onto the front straightaway. It gave him a little advantage over Spinelli just behind, and you see the black and blue. That's the number 1, Kyle Marcelli, looking to the inside there on Capitano. And, was there contact there? I think that's Alec Udell in the 48 on the outside. No, that's the 6. That's Stephen Agakani working his way forward. They had a win here last year. He and Jacob Edson in the doubleheader. One of those races, they had a victory. So Agakani, they ran well at Coda as well, but had a flat tire, which set them back in the second of the 2 races at Coda. They're trying to get back in this championship battle, and it's intense back in the 5th and 6th spots.
It certainly is. And in that mix also is Stephen McAleer, car number 16. That is the Bud Light car. It's the car is actually owned by MCR Racing. It's loaned out to Change Racing for this season because there's so many Lamborghinis running over here. Change Racing couldn't find an additional car, so MCR had one. They're able to loan it to that team, and that is the car that Stephen McAleer and Madison Snow running, and actually leading the championship coming into this weekend. But the big battle for the lead here continues as they head along the roller coaster and up to the top of the hill.
How does that phone call go, Jeremy? Hey, mind if I borrow your Lamborghini?
I wouldn't know, Brian, I'm afraid.
I wouldn't know either, but just surmising. You talk about Stephen McAleer. Remember, he and Madison Snow took the victory in round 2 at Coda the last time out. His first victory as Antonucci dives to the pit lane. I'm surprised by that. I thought he might stay out just a little bit longer, but McAleer celebrating his first win in the series. Obviously, Madison Snow has won in the series before, a series champion, but it just shows how deep the talent is throughout, especially the pro category. And you talk about that talent, Alec Udell in the 48, one of those very talented drivers as well, a rookie. Kelly Moss rode in race entering the 48 for Alec Udell. And Alec, another one of those drivers who has immense talent and a lot of experience throughout different types of cars. But he said stepping behind the wheel of this Lamborghini Super Trofeo Huracan Evo was an eye-opening experience. He said it's the highest horsepower car he's ever driven.
Yeah, and 620 horsepower from this V10 engine. I mean, they really do sing, and it's a heck of a lot of race car, particularly for drivers just starting out in this sport. Here in the LB Cup category, there's quite a few drivers, and even in the AM category, Luke Berkeley. Circuit of the Americas a couple of weeks ago. That was his first ever professional race in a 620 horsepower Lamborghini, for goodness sake. So you know it's a lot of car, but there's a lot of systems on these cars, and you know all of the drivers have got a fair bit of testing before they start their first race. Luke Berkeley, like various other drivers, came up through the the Corsa Piloto Lamborghini program, which is an opportunity to get behind the wheel of a race car, and then at the end of it you are granted a racing license if you want to go racing. That's exactly what Luke Berkeley did. He ran that program with Dream Racing Motorsport, and it'll be run again this year at the end of August at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, and quite a few drivers will be already, I believe that school, that Pilota Corsa Pilota program is already fully subscribed, and they're trying to add an extra couple of days for the additional drivers who want to join in and have some fun.
Pit lane starting to get very busy. We saw the 38 of Trevor Andrusko go by, leading in the AM category. Also, Ashton Harrison out there. She took a victory in class at COTA, and I know that was big-time celebration for her and her Harrison contracting Lamborghini with Wayne Taylor Racing. We talk about the minimum time on pit lane, 91 seconds for dual driver entries, 94 seconds for the single driver entries. You have 3 crewmen over the wall, no refueling. If you want to change a tire, you can do that. You can check torque on the wheel nuts. You can change tire pressures, which is why you don't see a lot of hurried action going on. There's not a lot of work, certainly, that should go on during one of these pit stops, Jeremy.
No, that's right. You're not allowed to change tires. You're not allowed to do anything at all other than change the driver. So yeah, it's the minimum pit stop time is decided upon based not to make sure that pit stops aren't hurried. As we've already talked about, there's quite a few drivers in this field who don't have a lot of racing experience, so really the last thing you want to do is to have them hurrying their pit stop. It gives them enough time for one driver to get out, for the other driver to get in, help the incoming driver get fully bolted in, prepared and ready to go again, and then get to the pit exit without being too hurried and making any mistakes, and you're not being fully suited and booted before he's ready to go.
Well, it's about experience, and it's about budget as well. Money buys speed. How fast do you want to go? And the same holds true both on the racetrack and in pit lane. If you want fast pit stops and you allow the pit stops to be open, that takes equipment, it takes personnel, that takes money. So just as much from a budget standpoint as it is an experience standpoint. And I think it's a really, really great way to look at it. Make the pit stops, I hate to use this term, a little more fair, but it takes the pit stop action out of the competition, and I think that's fine. You still want to be able to be right on the money with that time. If you've got 91 seconds, you don't want to spend 95, that's for sure. So there's still some science behind it and timing that goes on with it. It just takes the work out of the pit stop.
And Loris Spinelli, he's brought the car that was leading into the pit lane, so it's now Max Wearing in the MCR Racing car number 61, the young Dutchman who leads this race. He had a big crash in practice here on Friday, another big crash at Circuit Americas in the wet race there. So it's been a difficult start to the season for the young Dutchman. However, he's also running in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Series in Europe, and he's won races there already this season. So he's going to make his pit stop upcoming. But with Loris Spinelli having just brought his car onto pit lane to hand over to Claude Signoretti for the second half of this race. Car number 22 is Dario Capitano. He has made his mandatory pit stop. He's running now further down the order in the 16th position.
And this is where it's going to get interesting, because when Spinelli comes back out, Antonucci comes back out, you can see they're in the middle of this traffic. This is what they don't want. They don't want to get caught up in slower traffic. Those out laps, so important after the stops. They want to get out there and get their laps in, or on an in lap like Spinelli has going right there. The last thing he wants to do is get held up when he knows another competitor may be out on clean racetrack in front of him.
Yeah, and was that a second stop for Spinelli?
That's what I just thought.
I think he must have had a penalty of some sort, perhaps a a restart infraction or some sort of infraction in the early part of the race. See if we can find some notes here about that. There's various instances that were under review earlier in the race, and I think incident responsibility was that contact at the beginning of the race between number 51 and number 34 was under review, and there is indeed I think a drive-through penalty for car number 51. So that was why Spinelli gave up the lead initially, and now he comes in to make presumably to make the driver change.
Yeah. That's what we saw earlier was the penalty being served. Now it's the mandatory pit stop that he needs to do and the driver change.
So Nelson Piquet Jr. now leads this race. The pit stop window is open, remains so for a couple of laps or so. But you want to make sure you don't get caught out if the another caution period comes out now, and that takes you past the end of the pit stop window, you're going to be out of luck, because you have to make that pit stop, that mandatory pit stop, before the 20 minutes remaining in this race. You've certainly had plenty of opportunity to do so. So if you elect to stay out and then the caution period comes out, the pits are closed, and you haven't made that stop, well, that's your problem, nobody else's. But there is Nelson Piquet Jr. for Ansem Motorsports. He does bring that car onto pit lane from the back of the field to the front before he now ducks onto the pit lane for his mandatory service.
Well, you bring up a very good point, Jeremy. You're kind of rolling the dice a little bit when you're staying out there. It's like when you watch a IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship race and the final pit stops begin to unfold, and there's a car that's not coming in and not coming in. Well, you risk being caught out by a full course caution if everyone else is pitted. And it's really the same kind of thing here, even if there's not fuel and tires involved. If you start to run out of time on that pit stop window and the full course caution comes out, you're out of luck. So the farther you go into the window, the more you're rolling the dice. Anthony not having to roll the dice with anything right now, no traffic around him, a clean racetrack, and he is setting sail. We know PK is in the pit lane, so that's going to give Antonucci the lead when he comes onto the front straightaway and across the line.
Yeah, that's right. So lap 15, it'll be completed this time around for Richard Antonucci, well out in front. He's got a pretty handy lead in that Pitbull car for Dream Racing Motorsport. He at the first rounds at Circuit Americas, he won one race convincingly, and had to serve a penalty, I think, didn't he, in one of the races, and so wasn't able to win that one. But he is by far the most experienced driver in this field. 15 wins already to his name, and running serenely out in front now with just less than 12 minutes remaining.
Denny Formal in the number one, taking that car over from Kyle Marcelli earlier, and then Jacob Edson in the number 6 from O'Gara Motorsport US Racetronics, right there behind him. And we talked about Jacob Edson and Stephen Agakani had a victory here last year, and what they need to do, that young driver duo, in my opinion, Jeremy, Jacob Edson has a championship in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Stephen Agakani does not. What they've got to find a way to do is not only win races like they have done in the past, but eliminate the mistakes that cost them a point here or there. And it's not always a driver mistake. They had a cut down tire at Coda, and I was talking to the Shane Cineverante the other day about that tire being cut down at Coda. It was coming up to the pit window, and if the crew had been able to communicate with Jacob Edson in the car and tell him to slow down on the racetrack, he would have gotten around to the pits just as they opened. Instead, he got there too quickly and couldn't pit. He could pit to change the tire, but he couldn't pit to do the driver change. So it effectively made them do 2 pit stops. And Shane just said, with everything that was going on that weekend, we didn't have our typical telemetry. We didn't have our typical radio setup. We didn't have the communication that we needed. It cost them an extra pit stop. They still had a good finish, but it's not up there on the podium. It's not standing on the top step of the podium. And as a team and as drivers, they need to figure out a way to eliminate those small mistakes, because those are the things that will cost you just 1 or 2 points throughout the season. And those 1 or 2 points could be the difference in a championship.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And yeah, you get 15 points for a race win or a category win, 12 points for second place, 10 for third, plus one for for the pole position as well. That was set in a qualifying session yesterday. There were two qualifying sessions, one to set the grid for race one, and a second 15-minute session to set the grid for race two, which will be later on this afternoon here at VIR. And for each of the cars that have two drivers, one driver starts and qualifies and starts one race, the other driver qualifies and starts the second race later on.
Saw the 46 flash by just a moment ago of Brian Ortiz sharing that car with Brandon Godovic, who certainly knows how to win in this series. They're having a good run right now, leading in the Pro-Am category in Am. It's Gianno Torino. We spoke about that young man earlier, just 17 years old. His father owns the team, another new team to the series, but a massive amount of racing experience in that family. Andrea Torino manufactures parts for automobiles. In addition to, he was a professional race car driver in Europe. He knows all about it. And he said it's just a great opportunity to do something with your son. Other families go fishing, go hunting, go golfing, whatever. This is an opportunity for us to go racing, and it gives me an opportunity to give my 17-year-old something that he can aspire to. He knows he can't screw up at home and do something silly, because the keys that get taken away in this case aren't the keys to your street car. It's the keys to the 620 horsepower Lamborghini that you race on the weekend.
Yeah, that's right. And Andrea, he did most of his racing in South Africa. I think in the Trans Am series. There was a thriving Trans Am series in South Africa, and that's where Andrea did most of his racing. But you're right, Gianno has to make sure he gets all his schooling in order. He is another driver that started at the back of the field in qualifying. They had a transponder problem on that number 88 car, but he's done a great job, has young Gianno. Just 17 years of age, to move himself up into the 12th position overall now, and first in the AM category, and edging clear of Alan Metney. The fastest lap in a race that was set by Loris Spinelli early on in the race, 1:45.270. A lap or two ago, Richard Antonucci turned a 1:45.4. Which almost matched that best lap by Loris Spinelli. That was a new Pro-Am lap record. At a 140, it wasn't actually, not quite, beg your pardon, it was a 1:45.2 was the fastest lap, so not quite down to the lap record that was set at 44.7 by Austin Versteeg back in 2017. The fastest lap overall was set by the Scotsman Sandy Mitchell at 1:43.7. That was in 2019.
Richard Antonucci, as you said, with a comfortable lead out in front. And looking back for Danny Formal in the number one, and Formal's got his hands full right behind him. Jacob Edson really beginning to put the pressure on. And Edson, just a quality young driver, good, young, really nice young man, good behind the wheel. We talk about it. He's got a championship in Lamborghini already, so a lot of experience, even at a young age. And that 6 team, a lot of experience there. O'Gara Motorsports and US Racetronics teaming together to provide that entry for Aga Khani and Edson, and they do their homework, normally running more cars, just one car under the tent this weekend. But look at this. This is what traffic can do to you and for you at VIR.
Yeah, that section of racetrack there, it's really difficult to get past slower cars, but they've done a good job to fight their way through. But this fantastic battle going on now for second place from Costa Rica. Danny Formal has that position, but right behind him there is was Jacob Edson. It's now Stephen McAleer who's managed to fight past Edson, and these cars absolutely nose to tail as they head over along the roller coaster.
And McAleer in that Bud Light, that light blue 16. He's got a busy weekend running in another series as well. He's busy right now because it's 160 plus miles an hour with Jacob Edson down into 13 and 14, drops a wheel. This is hard-nosed racing right now. 2 young professionals. And for Stephen McAleer, he took his first victory in the series at COTA. We talked about that a little bit earlier. He said, I've won in every professional series I've run in my class, but I've never won in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. I want to get that done. He got it done at Coda, and I think he must like the taste of champagne because he's trying to get back to the front here. But right now, his hands full with Jacob Edson, and it was that lap traffic that allowed McAleer the bold move up through the climbing S's.
Yeah, that was a great pass by Edson to get that position back again, and that but well, briefly, because what a battle this is once again,
Wow.
side by side. Well, that's forceful driving, isn't it? Yikes!
And you
Great stuff.
You think about these cars and what they cost and the parts and everything else, and these guys are willing to lean on each other a little bit, a little push, a little shove, side by side. And here it is again through the turn 3-4 combination, and just a powerful move by Edson coming there into turn 3. Hard to get it done, and I think there might have been a little contact right rear to about the door of the 16, and that may be what put McAleer off.
Yeah, but to me that was a perfect move by Edson at the turn-in point, at the point where Steve McAleer had to turn into that corner. Edson was already completely alongside him. He really, just dug deep there, got very late on the brakes, and there was nothing McAleer could do. He had to just cede that position. A brilliant pass by Edson. It's Tom Kerr off the road.
And
I think
Tom Kerr was around. Yeah, Tom Kerr's around, and also a problem for the 62 of Bill Pelichewski. Were they together? Couldn't see who that was with Tom Kerr, but
is that well, Bill?
The 62 was off, I thought, at a different place on the racetrack. That, I believe, is up at Oak Tree. And there's the 62.
Oh, no. Are we going full course caution?
So Pelichewski back underway. That was at Hogpen. Take a look. He just drops the right side wheels behind the curbing there, Jeremy, and loses it. And then, of course, gets off in that dirt, trying to stay in the throttle and keep the car going. But in the grass, those Pirelli tires just have no grip, and around it goes.
Yeah, so Bill Pelichewski, he was running in the 4th position there, making his return to racing after a few years away, certainly from professional ranks. Bill ran in the Porsche GT3 Cup Series for several years, a few years ago, for this Kelly Moss Road and Race team. And when Kelly Moss decided they were going to join in the Lamborghinis, Bill said, "Oh yes, please." So here he
I'll
is.
have some of that.
I'll have some of that, and a hugely accomplished team in Porsche racing, making a move into Lamborghinis, and already they're running cars in different classes. The first 2 races at Circuit Americas a couple of weeks ago, the pro car for the Kelly Moss Road and Race team, Alec Udell, who's currently running in the 5th position, he set fastest lap in both races. That was a great debut for that team.
And for Pelichewski, he had a second in the first race, won the second race there at Coda. So a great return, like you said, to racing at such a high level for Wild Bill, as you said his nickname was back in the day. So not the way he's wanted this weekend to go, but we've got another race later today. And I think that's the other thing that's important. You really need to take care of the equipment so that you've got something to run race number 2 with. And speaking of taking care of the equipment, that's one of the things Alec Udell said. I've got to learn how to take care of these Pirelli tires. What do they want? How hard can you lean on them? Can you run them at full chat the entire time? Do you have to save a little? So for these new drivers, as talented as they are, not only do they have to learn the car, but really the most important thing on the car is the tire, because that's what's between the chassis and the road. That's what keeps it under control.
It is, and this battle continues. Well, it's a different battle now, isn't it? Edson having fought off, quite literally, Steve McAleer is now right with Danny Formal again and trying to get into 2nd position. In the meantime, Richard Antonucci, he's well out in front. But just a little bit behind these two, there is Brian Ortiz from Puerto Rico in car number 46 for the Precision Performance Motorsports team. He is in the Pro-Am category. He leads that Pro-Am category, representing the Palm Beach Lamborghini dealer. He is in the 6th position, but closing up on him gradually is Victor Gomez, another Puerto Rican, coincidentally, for Change Racing, car number 29. He's brought that gap down. It's actually just extended a little bit on the last lap. The gap had come down from about 5 seconds to almost half of that, 2.4 seconds last time around. So Brian Ortiz clearly has got the message. He eked out just a little bit more over Victor Gomez in the battle for the Pro-Am category as the second and third place cars head up into the roller coaster section one more time with it'll be white flag this time around.
White flag this time around, and down the straightaway, you saw that red, white, and blue 74 of Tom Kerr after he had his problem. Remember, Kerr was in the middle of that scrum with McAleer, Formal, and Edson, and white flag is waving, so the checkered flag next time around.
In fact, yeah, there's a bit of confusion there on the scoring. Yes, I thought that was right. All of a sudden, the scoring monitor flashed up the checkered flag, but no, it was the white flag that was shown there. I was right initially.
Scared you, didn't it?
It did a bit, yeah, because I thought I was right, but I am, thankfully, on that occasion. So, yeah, one more lap to go, and this battle is a come up to lap. I think that's Claude Segnoretti, who he took over from Loris Spinelli, led this race, and they're coming up to lap Claude now. The second and third place battle. This is not the place you want to catch cars on this racetrack.
And that's what we were just talking about. That's what happened with that trio when they caught Tom Kerr just a couple of laps ago. But great job by the 51 of letting the leaders through, and Jacob Edson letting it all hang out. Wheels up in the air over the curving through the climbing Estes, looking to find a way around Danny Formal. Richard Antonucci has found his way and is still at the front, a comfortable lead, as you say, but Edson trying to get a drive off of Oak Tree, Jeremy, but I don't see any real closing gap there down the long straightaway.
No, it's going to be hard for him to make a pass now at this stage. I think he's half a dozen car lengths behind and heading up into turn 14. That's not close enough to make a lunge for the lead there for Jacob Edson.
Richard Antonucci won the opening round of the 2021 season after almost a 6-month wait. Fourth after a problem in round two. He'll return to the top step of the podium. Richard Antonucci, Dream Racing, Lamborghini, Las Vegas. They take the checkered flag in round one of the doubleheader at VIR, and holding on to second place, Danny Formal keeps Edson behind. McAleer should roll across the line in fourth, and Alec Udell should bring home fifth. That's the top five, and the top five in pro will wait for the other class leaders as well. But Brian Ortiz had that good gap over Victor Gomez. It had been closing. Gomez just not enough in the tank to get it done. Ortiz brings home the victory in Pro-Am. And the 17-year-old Gianno Torino in the 88 for that brand new team in Lamborghini Super Trofeo action is going to bring home the victory there. He had a first in his opening race at COTA, a seventh in the second one. He, much like Richard Antonucci, will return to victory lane, takes the class win in AM, and that is so impressive. A problem for the 7, though, on the last lap. Our leader in LB Cup has not crossed the line just yet, being shown in timing and scoring as the 47. We'll let timing and scoring cycle through, but if indeed it ends up that way, it would be a great finish for Mark Kwame.
Yeah.
And his teammate, Terry Olson. I'm a little confused how, I get it now. But so we'll have to wait and see if Kwame can hold on to the victory. And, he really seems to have settled into this Lamborghini Super Trofeo series very nicely. A fourth in the opening round, second in his second race in the series. Those two rounds coming at COTA. And now the 47 onto the front straightaway, and a stricken car there being covered by the waving yellow flag. And indeed, Mark Kwame, Terry Olson, Precision Performance Motorsports, Lamborghini Palm Beach, they'll take home the victory. Their first, at least for Mark Kwame and Terry Olson, in Lamborghini Super Trofeo action.
Tremendous run for that pairing. And Mark Kwame, who's also driving a Porsche this weekend in some separate races, as that's Justin Price, who's come to a halt there out of the final corner. Looks like he's not going to take the checkered flag. He has had a big spin coming out of that final corner, I think. Oh, he was 2 cars off the road.
Two cars, yeah.
Yeah, not sure who the other one was. What the other one was, but Justin Price, he drove in this series a couple of years ago for Dream Racing Motorsport, and then sat out last year, out of the entire team due to COVID. But he watched the first races at Circuit Americas a couple of weeks ago, called up the team and said, I need to be at VIR. Can you have me a car? And indeed they did. And he's had a good run there, but unfortunately it's ended a little bit early. But just a quick look at the championship points. By my unofficial reckoning, in all four categories, we know we have a new points leader after this race. I think Richard Antonucci will take the overall lead on 39 points ahead of 36 for the previous leaders. Stephen McAleer and Madison Snow finished fourth this morning. In a Pro-Am, Brandon Godovic and Brian Ortiz, with their win today, will move 1 point clear of Victor Gomez, who finished the second today. In Am, Gianni Torino will take the championship lead on 35 points by 3 over Alan Metney, who finished second today. And in LB Cup, Mark Kawami and Terry Olsen, with the win today, will move to 36 points, 3 ahead of Bill Pelichuscu, who finished fifth. And 1 point behind him is Michael Manella and Bart Collins, who finished a close second today.